I gave my passion speech, and lo and behold, a couple of weeks later, we were both admitted as the first martial arts company at Harvard Business School, and that's what we became.
Welcome to the Satori Lifestyle Satori Masters Podcast, the ultimate resource for ambitious, hardworking school owners that want to get their business and their life to the next level. My name is Dave Kovar. I'm a lifetime martial artist, business owner, speaker, and author. My goal is to empower listeners with the knowledge and the tools they need to break through barriers and really get their business and their life to the next level. Thanks for watching and enjoy. Welcome to the Satori Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Dave Kovar, and with me today is Master Tule. How are you, sir?
Good afternoon, sir. I'm doing well. Excited to be on here. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, so glad to have you here. I know you're a busy guy. You just got back from Africa.
I did. Yeah, we're fortunate enough to kind of partner with an organization down there that has an orphanage to help with the HIV pandemic, leaving a lot of kids without parents in Zambia. Now it's kind of morphed into a full-fledged school, providing a farming system. It's the most vertically integrated NGO that I've witnessed. So we're excited to partner them from a technology standpoint and education, which we're very passionate about.
That's so cool. So how are you personally, you're helping with the technology, I'm assuming?
That's correct, sir. You know, technology and infrastructure is growing in that part of Africa, right? And I think there's talent in Africa. All of them speak English. The kids are, Africa is the youngest continent in the world. Average age is, I think, in the teens, right?
Wow.
So, yeah, so that's where we kind of see potential growing up and connecting them to the rest of the world through technology. Obviously, we're globalized more so from business. So allowing us to do that, education, you and me are very passionate about the educating kids. I got to teach my first class in Africa. It was wonderful teaching class over there, martial art class. So that's our goal there, sir. That's why we went. So I had a fantastic time. Obviously, saw the safari, saw Victoria Falls, one of the great, wonders of the world. It was really a great trip, great people.
So cool, so cool. Well, for those of you who don't know, Master Le is the founder of MyStudio. He was a longtime school owner. As a matter of fact, you're still involved in the business. You still run schools, correct?
We still own all the schools. We have 6 that are in InCourage, 4 of which Lynette, my partner and I, my wife and I own 100% of. We've been doing it since 2007. So still own it. We don't run it. We've hired a CEO to run that company for the past 6 years as we work on MyStudio. But, once a month, I still meet with all the partners to go over the financials and all the numbers that are there. So KPIs, we call it, and something, I'm hoping to get to share today with you.
Very cool. Well, kind of take everybody through your history a bit. What got you started in training and who'd you train with? I think I know some of this, but kind of fill us in.
Yeah, so I was born in Vietnam, in a city called Bien Hoa, where the U.S. Air Base was, right? My dad served in the South Vietnamese Army, fought alongside Americans. So when I was 10, my family was able to immigrate to the United States through the Humanitarian Organization program and got a green card by the U.S. government. So very fortunate with that. But when I was young in Vietnam, I would always love to learn martial arts. So I learned from books because we were too poor to have classes. Right? At that point, Vietnam wasn't at the point where you did recreational things like martial arts. You just learned by watching movies.
Got it.
When I came to the States, when I was 13, my cousin started taking martial arts class in a local Taekwondo school. So I joined with them, loved it. The name of the instructor, my master, his name is John Cassidy.
Great guy.
At the time. Yeah. And, I got up to my green belt, and then my parents said, hey, this is, too much and we can't afford this. So I stopped coming to class, and Master Cassidy called me. He's like, why aren't you coming to class? It's like a classic "we miss you" call,
Right.
I picked up my son. I'm sorry, my parents can't afford it. He says, well, ask your parents this. If you're willing to come and help clean and teach and help me, you can come for free. So I started coming, helping teaching class at a blue belt in 15, I'm sorry, at that point, right? 14, 15, started helping out, and then started working formally there at 15 and a half, and then haven't stopped since.
So that's a great story. And how many, I wonder how many martial arts school owners out there, instructors, actually had a similar experience, because I know I swapped, my parents enrolled me. The first month, the instructor, my original instructor was Hunchy Bruce Jutnick, and he was gone the first month I was there because he was out on paternity leave. And so the guy that was like working the front desk took my $30 and, that was it for my month. And then when Hunching came back, anyway, I did a paid in full for like 6 months for $175. and I paid for half of my folks paid for the other half. And that's the last time I ever paid, because by that, within 6 months from there, of course, I was on the mat teaching but how many people have been asked by their instructor, would you wash mirrors for exchange for lessons?
So the power that we miss you call is pretty apparent, right? To make sure the retention's there, is let me know that, hey, I see you haven't been to class. That's a huge case with me. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here today. So I'm glad he did that. We miss you call.
Well,
I also don't recommend charging 175 for 6 months.
Well, this was 1973 too. So I think if you did it by today's standards, it'd be a little different, right? But what's interesting is how things, one call, Master Cassidy picking up the phone, one time, how that has changed the lives of so many people. Of course, your family, I'm sure you had been successful regardless of your family, but how many people you've impacted through MyStudio that would have not been affected, and all the students that you affected through your schools. It's really, I always geek out on that.
And then to kind of to put a cherry on top of that. So yesterday at the same studio, which Master Cassidy was, so nice enough to allow me the opportunity to buy when I was 25, where I got my black belt and all of that. At that same school, we do traditional Taekwondo. The president of Kukiwon from South Korea flew over and visited and brought his demonstration team to our mats yesterday. Wow. And so we were there with him. We got to, have dinner with him and partner with him with MyStudio. But, to kind of go full circle, if that call wasn't made, am I still in martial arts? I don't know. Yeah. So
amazing. So, okay. Yeah. You're running a school, you're 25, you pick up, you buy a school from Master Cassie, ended up doing a few more. And were you always really tech savvy? Was that something that was always part of your nature?
I dropped out of school on a full scholarship for computer engineering.
Okay.
So I wouldn't say I'm tech savvy. I wouldn't say I'm a computer genius. I say I know. I think my niche is like I know what the customers want and to make things simple, right? Things have to be simple, and so that's kind of my niche, And software and martial arts kind of just blended together in what I do now, So
crazy. And then probably, I don't know, 7-8 years back, I know you and our mutual friend John Boussard ended up going to business school at Harvard. What an experience that was.
Yeah, I was really fortunate because, when I was looking to further my understanding of business, right? I was just at a plateau where I'm just not able to learn, and what's the best way to learn out there. So I started looking at executive education. Obviously the Stanford, the Wharton, the Harvard, the world, they'll have that out there. So I'm like, you know what? I don't have any of the credentials that they typically look for Harvard Business School. I'm just going to apply anyway, like what the hey, just do it.
Right.
And kind of just being sometimes, ignorance is bliss, and that's this case here. You don't know anything, you just apply. So I went to the application process online. 3 days later, got a very nice, polite email decline saying, hey, typically we need this, we need this, we need this. Your company needs to be at least $5 million in grossing, right? And has a board of directors, whatever that thing is. I'm like, what? So I applied again 3 months later, right? I'm saying, hey, I'm not there yet at 5 million, but I'm gonna get there. Right. And isn't that this what this thing's about? Another rejection letter came saying, well, the typical age we look at is this, because you have this type of life experience. This time, however, they gave me a little in. They say, although you can't get into this alumni, which is a degree kind of granting program, why don't you come take one of our small business classes that are designed for small businesses? It's still on campus. It's a 3 to 5 day. It's called Leading Your Business Through Its Life Cycle. I said, you know what? I'll do that. So I signed up for this course. It was like, I think 7,000 to 5,000. At that point, it was pretty big for a 3-day experience. You're at Harvard Business School. You're in the dorm. You're living there, and you go into the same class that the MBA go to. It was such a life-changing experience, Master Kovar. I was like, dude, this is where magic happens. So I walk over to the registrar's office. I said, hey, I think you emailed me. I asked for that person. I came to class to recommend. I got a recommendation from the teacher. What do I need to do? And she's like, all right, apply once again. I apply, I fly home. Another rejection. This
So three
time saying,
rejections
hey,
now. Okay.
yeah, this is the third one. So, anyways, two more after that. But each time they asked me to come to take another course. And each time I said, if you're going to reject me, then you have to do it in person. Finally, I said, you know what? I'm going to call some of my friends. I asked Master John Busardi. He's like, I'll take that course with you. It wasn't the full program. We both went there. And then I went to the office, and there's a sign on Harvard Business School that says, we educate leaders who make a difference in the world. And I look at him, I say, I teach kids every single day. I mean, that's just what we do. Our goal is to empower individuals to make a positive difference in that community. That's our mission statement at InCourage Martial Arts, right? And he said, there's no reason why that sign he has nothing to do with size, has nothing to do with the size of the company. It has to do with making a difference, right? And then so I kind of gave my passionate speech, and lo and behold, a couple of weeks later, we were both admitted as the first martial arts company at Harvard Business School, and that's what we came.
That's the first time I've heard that story. That's such a great story. And what I love about it, there's so many levels that, you keep perseverance, right? But I know just like on a school level, I tell the people that I'm coaching, hey man, if someone doesn't show up for the first lesson, you get back in touch with them. And how long should you do that? Until they say no, right? And the reality is I usually, after 2 or 3 attempts, go, okay, they're not interested. But what you shared with me is it took you, would you say 5 attempts before they finally let you in?
Technically 7,
okay.
But I have 5 rejection emails. That's for sure.
Okay.
In person, it was twice, but each one of those times there was something, right? There was something. I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm not able to do that program, but what else? But if you just took no and just walked away, like that'll be done, right? But what I did was I said, hey, what else?
Yeah,
If I'm not there now, what do I need to do to get there, right? So that helped.
and it also sounds like you strategically, I mean, you were kind of in their face, but in a very polite, courteous, respectful way, sharing your story.
That's correct. Yeah. Yes, I was. Yeah, I kind of made sure, I was there with them, and they had to say no to me in person, which is harder, by the way. And all of this doesn't matter where you are, right? Harvard or any other program, there's one person making that decision.
Right, right. Such an important
and
reminder. Yes.
yes, this one person.
Tell me the impetus of MyStudio. So at what point did you say, hey man, I don't like how it's being done. Did you build your own software for your company first? The first I heard about this is I was talking with John Bussard one time, and he said, my buddy Tule, and I knew who just developing this app that's looking like it's really cool. And so, how did you get from there to here, where you're at now?
I met my wife at that point. We were starting to date. She was getting her MBA from Kellogg, which is Northwestern. And I was studying at Harvard Business School. And at that point, we had a project to study the businesses that we're in, and are there any, gaps or any area that could improve. And when we look at our business together, and she came into the martial arts school, she worked at Deloitte, where she did digital disruption, right? So she'll work with Google and Walmart. And so when we both came in there, she said, hey, the registration process is behind, right? Where we had this summer camp pre-sale, and there was just a line of parents out the door waiting to sign up for camp. And we were so proud of that at that time, because there's so many people waiting in line for it. But she would look at it, and I would look at it as like, well, if I was that parent, am I happy? I hate waiting in lines. That's one of my things that I just think it's a waste of time. So like, why can't everybody sign up wherever they're at, wherever they're from? So right after we got married, I decided to take 6 months off, right? So we traveled for 6 months to see how our schools would do. And during that 6 months, we test this theory of coming on an online registration. So we say, hey, we're going to do summer camp, but I'm going to launch it from Patagonia, where we were traveling. And we did the best sales we did there, and it was great. So we knew the hypothesis would work. And then we started looking for software that did what we wanted to do. Unfortunately, there wasn't one. So we kind of had to build our own for our schools. So that's kind of how it started for our schools to do that. We wanted a sales enablement platform. We didn't need a management platform. There's a bunch of them out there. Right. We wanted a platform that enables sales faster for businesses. And if I can buy a Tesla on my phone, I should be able to sign up for martial arts on my phone at any time, anywhere. That's kind of the goal of the platform. So I believe that MyStudio, with that focus of enabling sales, right, and churn reduction, those are the 2 goals that we have in our software. Enable sales faster for studio owners and help them to reduce churn. That's kind of really the two goals we have with MyStudio. That's it. Which match with what small businesses want, right? Get new customers and keep current ones.
Very cool. So how many different, I mean, clearly it's evolved a lot, you know, from your original, when you first jumped into this space as to where MyStudio is now. What are some of the significant differences? You know, how far have you come along, in what ways?
I think when we went through it, we built out a pretty simple platform. We wanted our parents, our students to have, you know, the ability to sign up on their phone, to buy events from their phone, to get testing done, to buy equipment, retail. And as we progressed, we realized that the studio owner needs their own set of reports and processes and automations. So we always focus first on your customer, which is the end consumer. And then we focused on the business owner. So MyStudio was slower, helping the business to get the reports they need because we focused so much on that sales enablement process.
Okay.
So as the years we're at now, we're one of the top CRMs to help business owner kind of really understand the key performance indicators and whatnot, right? So just from my understanding of running martial arts schools and running them well, we have a really clear idea to simplify what the school owner needs to see on their dashboard. Rather than giving them everything they need, we're like, nope, strip all of that out, give them the 20% that they really need. So that's kind of what's different about our platform. It's kind of, we understand that and we can simplify that.
Got it. So your idea is, you know, the bare necessities done really well. Is that
100%, sir?
Yeah.
That's correct. You don't need to have, like, I can give you, you know, 100% different data points, but the point is, what are you going to do with it?
Mm-hmm.
Do the data, or does the data or the report allow you to take actionable steps? So for example, in our platform, a good one is like churn rate. I can tell you, oh, you know, you're doing 2%, 3% churn rate. Good job, right? Or I can say, hey, you know what, Master Kovar, out of 100 students last year, 50 of your students that did quit, out of the 100 that did quit between month 0 and month 6. Now you have something you can work with, right? So our churn rate shows that how many students quit between months 0 and 3, how many students quit between months 3 and 6, 6 and 9, 9 and 12, 12 to 24, and so forth. So then that allows our team. And when we did that with MyStudio, this is a KPI that I always look at. The average membership-based business, right? I'm talking 2,800 businesses,
Okay.
processing about 600 million a year across the US, Canada, UK, and Australia, the majority of which is in the United States. The average length is 8 months.
Really?
I'm gonna say that again. Okay. So, you know, a lot of time I hear somebody on stage or whatever say, I keep my students at least for 3 years, you know, and I'm like, okay, how many, you know? But I can tell you, from 2,800 businesses and hundreds of thousands of practitioners, you know, revenue of 600 million. If my company was a $600 million company operating 2,800 locations, I can tell you that company, average student stays 8 months.
Yeah.
So that's a KPI we track, right? That gives us lifetime value, right? So for example, if I'm just going to give a number, $200 per month, right? Times 8 gives me $1,600. If I know that my average student stays with me for 8 months, they're going to give me $1,600. Then I know how much marketing money I can spend. Maybe you only want to spend 20% of that, right? 20% of that $1,600 to do advertising and things like that. It gives you some data to work with, right? And now, how do we increase the lifetime value from 8 months to 9 months?
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you need to do? Do you need to have a master instructor that can teach all the way up to third degree black belt or fourth? You really don't. If you look at what the students learn from month 0 to month 8, yeah, really the basics, extremely the basics. And what is it that we're missing in our beginner classes that students are dropping off? So once we have that data, our team really drilled into that at InCourage Martial Arts. And these are the data that we give inside of MyStudio platform to like people to understand and be like, okay, great. If I know that the average student quits at 8 months, how do I train my staff? What staff can I hire? Can you develop a staff that can teach students that are months 0 to month 8? Of course, much faster, right? So these are some different things that we look at from a KPI, key performance indicator perspective to kind of give our clients a little bit more understanding of not only your business, but macro business as a whole, right?
Love it. And just simply by having someone figure out what their churn rate is, that also allows, which I'm sure your platform does, allows someone to know, So, because average is 8, that means it'd be interesting what the median is. How that would be different. Have you done any research with that? Like you take out I guess what's the best performing, the worst performing, and does it go up or down or any
Well,
idea?
yeah, that is the median across all of it.
Okay.
People who quit, like let's say your start date was January 1st, you sign up for a membership. Let's say everybody did it, right? And then whenever they quit, we aggregate all of that together and you get the 8 months. Of course, you're going to get your top 20% top tier, and then you have your lower 20%, and everybody's there, right? So your top performers, man, they're keeping their students probably 15, 16 months.
Okay. So I guess that was what I was
For
saying.
sure.
There's a lot of people out there
Yeah.
that are doing that, I think. Okay. Well,
Oh,
hey,
for sure. Yeah, for sure, sir.
switching gears a little bit. So I'm in the business. I've been in the business for quite a while. I think I'm working pretty hard. I don't seem to be. I'm seeing other people around me doing really well, and I'm kind of getting through the month. What should I do? Give me some tips that I can put to work to help my dojo get to the next level.
So this is the thing, right? When someone asks me how, they find out that they have a martial arts school, I have a martial arts school. The first thing they ask is, how big is your school? Right? Or I observe this conversation and say, how many students do you have?
Yeah.
How big is your school? I really don't care about those two numbers. The number one thing that you should look at is, what is your net, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing you should ask anyone. How successful is your school? Oh, I net this much a year, or I net this much last year. You should know that number right off the bat. And what is that percentage to gross, right? So if you're making, let's say, $10,000 a month, and your school is making $100,000, your net's only 10%. I would say that's pretty low. All right. If you say my net is $10,000 and my school is grossing $30,000, your net is now 33% off the gross. That's a good number to have. So know that, right? The second is gross divided by your payroll. Shows us there's only two things you can control with fixed costs. Okay. Mm-hmm. These are variable costs, excuse me, your rent and your payroll. Yep. So from a KPI standpoint, the data that I look at is, how effectively are you using your space or picking the right space, and how effective your people's bringing in revenue. This is business wide everywhere now, not just martial arts. So let's just say last year you made $300,000 in gross, okay? And your payroll, including paying yourself, because you always want to think of yourself as an employee of the business. You can't think yourself as an owner of the business. A true owner of the business is, I own 100% stock of your business, and I don't work in there. That's me as an owner. But the moment I step into my school and I work, you are now an employee. The business technically employs you, right? So if you're paying yourself a salary, you have to record that. Yep. Because you always want to think about it. How much am I willing to pay somebody else to do my job so that I don't have to be there? That allows you to go to multi-location, by the way. So let's just say your salary is $100,000 total, including yourself. You will take your $300,000 gross divided by your $100,000 in payroll. That gives you 3, right? What that means is, for every dollar that you pay out in payroll, you're making $3 back. That is a phenomenal ratio that you want to shoot for. Okay. Now, if you're on site, you got to be honest with yourself. What would I pay myself? For me, as an offsite owner, owning 6 schools and operating 6 schools, I'm not in the business. So my payroll, is pretty static. I have that. You want to share that slide as well, sir. But so that's the second thing, right? That I would recommend. Figure out what your gross to payroll ratio is. You want to be at 3, okay? If you're under 3, you're either, 1, overpaying, which is not typically the case, is you're probably underperforming. You're not selling enough, okay? And the second, when you look at your rent, you do the same thing. You take your $300,000 gross divided by the total rent that you're paying, okay? And you want to be at least higher than 8 on that. So what that means is, if I'm making $300,000 and I'm paying $100,000 in rent, okay, again, 300,000 divided by 100,000 gives me 3 again. That is too low. Okay, you're either way overpaying for your rent for that space, or again, you're underperforming. When we look at spaces to open into, we want to be in a very nice shopping center that gives us a lot of foot traffic. In essence, my rent is actually my marketing dollar that I'm spending, right? Because yes, Facebook ad, whatever, is bringing traffic to your online business, but we need to service them in our school. So the location of my school is actually a marketing function. So That's what tells me how well I'm using my space. And are you using too much square footage for what you're doing? Do you have your own office? And all your staff have offices, and the actual surface area, the mats, maybe is only 50% of your square footage. So that's where you make your money, by the way, on the mats, right? So can you downsize in your space so that you don't need that much space, so your rent is less? So that's what that ratio gives me. Not only am I picking a good location, negotiating good rent, but also am I getting too big of a space, or am I maximizing my space? So those are the three ratio I recommend for you to look at.
Good stuff. It's really amazing how, like, we just right now are just in the process. We just signed a lease to a location yesterday, right? And it's about 2,000 square feet. And so, which is plenty of space. It used to be, it's funny how what's old is new again. My first location was 1,000 square feet, and then bigger was better. And actually, where our headquarters school, where I'm actually doing this podcast right now, is it's 13,400 square feet. Now, by the way, my brother and I own the building. It's our headquarters also, as well as our dojo, and it's fine. But it's bigger is not better. It's just bigger. And your point is, it's amazing how now we're going back full circle to where, what do you need? You don't need much of an office, or the enrollment procedure is no longer that back office high pressure thing. It has nothing to do with that. So
that's right.
That's right. Space. How big can I make my mat? And by the way, how many times have I signed a lease on a building because I thought, it's going to be big, it's going to be so cool, and then all of a sudden you have to start paying rent on that big space. It very quickly loses its luster.
It loses that. And I want to clarify real quick. The ratio you want from gross divided by your rent, you want it to be above 5. If you're at 8, you're doing phenomenal. That's where we average at InCourage, at 8. And my main location, we pay $18,000 in rent a month, right? But that location does this 1.3 million in revenue. So we're still getting a 6 ratio on that, rent over gross. But then your payroll needs to be at 3, right? Gross divided by total payroll, it should be higher than 3. Gross divided by rent needs to be at least higher than 5. At that point, you're achieving, I don't care, if you just give me those ratio, I can tell you're probably netting above 30%.
Love it.
Just with those KPIs. Yeah, I don't care about how big your school is. I don't care about how many students you have. That doesn't matter, right? From a business standpoint, that's what we look at. So if you're out there, you're struggling, you're saying, how do I do better? Probably you're underperforming based on some of those ratios.
So switching gears. So what have you learned from failure? What's like something that you're comfortable discussing where that did not work out well, but the end result was good because you learned from it?
We got only 30 minutes right there. We got like 30 minutes only, right? This can go for a while. No, I've made so many mistakes, and luckily I had Master John Cassidy and mentors like you to kind of help save me on some of the bigger mistakes. But the biggest one is always deals with staffing, right? Where in the past, I would kind of give over feedback on little things that didn't really matter, right? And so we look at the bigger things. I say, this person does all of these big things well, but these little things that didn't really well, I spent too much time there, right? Focusing on that rather than focusing on their strengths. Okay. Hey, this person does it really well, and it's my fault because I'm making them do tasks that they're not innately good at, instead of focusing them and putting them on the right seat in the bus. That's the one thing, right? So when someone is like, if I lost that staff member, I'd be like, oh my God, now I got to do all these big things. These little things didn't really matter, right? Because these big things that they were doing was so important. So that would be the first mistake that I made.
Yeah, and I've made that mistake 100 times, right? But what's interesting is I remember, I'm going back 20 years, there was a trend in the industry that was very, very heavily high pressure, out in the community, sales driven trend that seemed like, and I remember, going to a couple of these events and feeling like this is, by the way, our business was good going into these first meetings, and we're thinking, I guess we're doing everything wrong. We don't have our team out in front of Kmart with clipboards, but I guess that's what we have to do. So I did this pendulum swing to where I had all these really guys that would teach 6 days a week, 5-6 classes a day, just rocking it. And that's a certain skill set that not a lot of people have. And
right.
You got that person, guard it, because they're hard to come by. And all of a sudden, I'm having them do things that are totally out of their, comfort zone, that they're not very good at, that they don't enjoy doing. And fortunately, we recognize it pretty early. So I only I can think of one person that I lost through this process, but very quickly I realized, it's like, teaching, being able to be on the floor from bell to bell, week in, week out, that is a real art and it's a real skill. And okay, so they're not great at other aspects. That thing is hard to replace.
That's correct. And that's why we built MyStudio with our new location and a new product. We just have one main instructor, and that instructor is just really good at teaching. I believe that the marketing function, when you go to multi-location as an owner, that's what you should focus on, right? Marketing, do my website look good? Is there an automatic registration system? We don't have a printer and we don't even have a computer at our school. We just have an iPad and most people register through their phone. So what we were forced to do, to your point, so we have to force to simplify our membership structure. So we went to something simple as this. How many times would you like to come a week? How much time do you have, Mr. Smith, Mrs. Smith, to bring Samantha to class? Is it one time? Is it 2 times or 3 times? The person be like, 2 times. I'm like, cool. All right. And do you want to save money or you like flexibility? They're like, well, what's saving money mean? Oh, you're going to commit for 6 months and it's going to be $149. But if you like flexibility, it's $199. You cancel anytime. Oh, by the way, if you do the 6 months, starting the 7th month, you can cancel anytime after that, right? So then once we got down to that simplicity, I'm like, I don't need a salesperson anymore. All of that can be on my app and they can click through it, right? So it takes away the sales process and allows our instructor to do what they do best, is connect with students, talk to parents, ask them about their day, look at the retention, call them, we miss you, get the tips out, award the belt, and the registration should take care of itself. And we're happy to say across our 6 location and over 1,000 trials last year, we do 2 free week trials because again, we don't want to have to sell. This is 2 free weeks. You want to try us out? Yeah, try it 2 weeks free. No commitment. We convert 52% of them, and our goal is 50%.
Impressive. Yeah. So what, where do you think the industry's going? Where do you feel like, we need to stay up on? What direction should we be looking? And I know if you had a crystal ball to predict the future, what would you say?
Well, we didn't have a crystal ball. We had COVID. That kind of gave us a lot of data points. After being locked down for 2 years, I think human interaction is like value higher than ever.
Mm-hmm.
Once you lose something, you realize how important that was. So we're at, I think, a really awesome age for martial arts and fitness in general, where people like the human interaction. They don't want to be locked down against their will anymore. They want to get out of the school. And the second thing is, so that's the first thing. So martial arts, the AI and all that stuff you hear, that's not going to change human interaction. It's actually going to
make it more
people
valuable.
Going to have make it more valuable. That's correct.
I agree.
Second is you have parents like myself. I have 3 young kids now. I have a 5, a 3, and a 2-year-old who are going to be a little more tech savvy, who are going to do a lot more research, who knows how to use the internet. So gone are the days of pressure selling. They're going to do their research, right? If you look on your open up your phone and said martial art classes in this city, where are you ranking? They're going to click on the Google review and they're going to click on the most recent review, because you know why? They do that on Amazon right now. They're going to buy something on Amazon. They're going to look for the most highly, rated things and the most things. And they do the same thing. They're going to ask, what's the best restaurant in my city, right? They're going to look at that. They're going to read the reviews. What's the best value on this vacation, cruise ship, etc. They do the same thing for martial arts. So you have very savvy buyers. So you want to put your pricing out there. You want to just have all of that there, because if some companies call me for pricing and it's not there, I'm not even going to look at them, to be honest with you. I want to know what I'm getting into and I want to have research right in front of me to make an educated decision. That's the buyer mentality right now. They're going to do their research. They want to have more information and they're going to make an educated one. So I think that's where the business side and the buying side is different. And that's kind of how we've geared the platform, MyStudio, and that's why we've had such great success, because we were able to see that trend and we kind of put it in the customer's hand, and it's forcing our instructors at our school to actually be really good at what they do, right? Because they want to have those good reviews. But because they don't have to sell, they have more time to practice and focus on that.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, where do you see MyStudio going from here?
We want to be more focused on the customers, right? So, I think I understand the business on a certain level, but our team is growing quite big in this area. AI is very exciting for us right now to kind of for example, let's say you're ready to craft an email, a sales email, and you just don't know the right words, right? You can put things, just on ChatGPT and the email says, hey, I want to I want to write in a sales email to let my members know they're going to save 25%, but the sales end on this, at 12 p.m. the next day. And I only want to send this out to Go Belts. They hit enter and then they'll craft an email for them, get the list ready. So business is going to really accelerate using that. And that's kind of where MyStudio is going. We're going to continue to make things simpler. So that way you're saving on staff, right? Or your staff is focused more of their hours on customer service rather than repetitive tasks that can be taken care of by the system.
Outstanding. I love it, man. Well, I want to be respectful of your time. So if someone wanted to reach out and get a hold of you or hear more about MyStudio, where would they go?
MyStudio.io is our website. My direct email is 2tu@mystudio.academy. I love hearing from a lot of people that I don't want to email you because you don't have time. I'm like, that's all the time I have is for customers and, to learn what people want. What do you mean? Email me, So that's the best way, sir. And I just want to say, I've been a fan of yours, and I've said this multiple times. I got your book actually right here, Brief Moments of Clarity. Last time that you shared it with us, and our whole team has this. Just thank you for what you've done in the industry. Thank you for being that really good leader, not only speaking, but like kind of walking what you teach us as well. You're my idol, man. I love it. So thank you.
Well, thank you for thinking, sir. I really appreciate your time, and I wish you the best. You certainly deserve it. Thanks for doing everything you're doing for the industry.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in today to our podcast. I hope you found it valuable and inspirational. To stay connected, please subscribe to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you go for your podcasts. If you enjoyed today's show, please give us a 5-star review. And we really sincerely would appreciate some feedback. Your feedback helps us to create high-quality content that will help others in the future. If you'd like to follow me, you can go to Dave Kovar on Facebook or Haunchie Dave Kovar on Instagram. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on next episode.